Okay, so today we are doing the demo for our chicken stir fry, and yes, you guys will be able to taste test it, so that's exciting. So first thing that I usually get started when I'm doing the chicken stir fry is the rice. So the rice will be on your recipes on the second sheet, okay, on the back. I like to use minute rice. I even do this at home just because it's super fast and easy. It's probably a lot more processed or things, but I just like it for the ease of convenience, and it takes a lot less time, and it's very, very easy. Basically, all that you do is in a liquid measuring cup, okay, measure out 1 cup of water. You put it in a little pot, okay, with a little bit of oil. You can also do margarine if you prefer, some salt, okay, and then let it boil. Once it comes to a boil, you put 1 cup of rice in it, so it's 1 cup of water to 1 cup of rice. Put it in, stir it, put the lid back on, take it off the heat. So basically all you do is, it's just like super fast, super simple, and then you just let it sit like that until it's done, basically. So it takes about 5 to 8 minutes or so for basically the rice to absorb the water. But please make sure you take it off the heat, or else it will burn on the bottom and start frothing and overflow. Okay, so I had started my water earlier, so I'm just going to put it back on. It should start boiling soon. Okay, once it boils, I will add the rice. While I'm waiting, I'm going to get my veggies ready. So I like to start off with the vegetables, mainly because we have quite a few. So we will have 2 stalks of celery, pepper, carrot, broccoli, ginger, garlic, onion, and peas. Now, if you were to make this at home, obviously you can edit it and change it, add veggies that you like or take out veggies that you don't like. I like to add lots of carrots because carrots are probably one of my favorites. I don't always have celery, so sometimes that's one that I leave out. And I actually like to add corn to my stir fry as well. I like that it has like a little bit of a sweet kind of crunch to it, but we're going to keep it as is for now. Okay, my water is now boiling again, so I'm going to turn it off, open the lid, put my rice in, give it a stir, lid back on, take it off the heat, then you're done. Okay, so while you're doing all of your cooking and everything, your rice can just sit there. It's fine to sit there for a while. Okay, so let's get started with our veggies. So I'm going to start off with my celery. Now, we're going to definitely think about kind of the factors of meal appeal while we're putting this together. We're going to cut everything a little bit different so that everything has a different shape. Okay, so that when it kind of comes together, it looks nice. So for the celery, I'm going to cut on a diagonal. Now, this celery didn't come in the whole stalk. It came in a bag like this. So I like to kind of make sure that we cut off the tops and the bottoms because they're a little bit dry. So I'm just going to cut those off, and I always have my garbage near me so I can throw anything out. And I'm just going to cut it into kind of thin-ish diagonal pieces. So I would say maybe less than 1 centimeter or so thin. Okay, you can cut a little thinner if you like. And remember to do the claw so you don't chop off your fingertips. Okay, and then throwing out the bottom part. And as I go, I like to keep my workspace clear, so I like to put it in a bowl to kind of get it off of my cutting board. Okay, so put that aside. Next, I'm going to do my onion. So these onions are really small, so you can just do the whole onion. So remember, cut off the top and the bottom. Okay, and then you're going to cut it in half from the root down. Okay, so that it kind of looks like this. It's kind of more lines like this. You don't want to cut it this way. Okay, that makes it more challenging. I'm going to peel off that outer layer of skin. If it'll come, there we go. All right, get rid of all that paper. Okay, and then as a reminder for cutting onions, okay, so we have the root down here. We are going to be slicing like this almost all the way through. Okay, not all the way through. You want to keep that root intact so that when you turn it this way, you can cut it this way and everything kind of stays together. Okay, so this is where you can use the tip of your knife to carefully cut through, and our knives are nice and sharp. Okay, so it should basically be like this. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it the other direction, and I'm going to give it a dice. Okay, once you get towards the bottom, okay, this, obviously you can't cut it like this because it's going to be a little bit wobbly, so I just lay it flat and go around that root and throw it out. Okay, so put that in there. Do the same with the other side. Just like so. Always keeping my cutting board nice and clean. Okay, next we have some pepper. I'm just going to use a little bit of pepper because I wanted to make sure that we had enough for tomorrow. So what I like to do is cut these into kind of thin strips, again, changing up the cutting technique and the shape of it. So you will have two different colors tomorrow. You'll have a little bit of red and a little bit of orange. You can also use green at home if you prefer. So I'm just going to cut it in half, okay, and then I'm going to cut each of these into strips. Okay, so I have just like little strips of pepper, just like that. Okay, do the same with the other side. All right, put that in my bowl. Okay, next we have peas. I defrosted mine yesterday, so I'm just going to throw them in. You can throw them in, that's fine. If they're frozen, they will warm up and cook. Okay, and then we have our carrot. So you want to make sure you peel your carrot first. Okay, so you'll be getting about a half a carrot tomorrow, like this. So just peel carefully. I don't always love peeling into the garbage because I have thrown carrots into the garbage by mistake when I accidentally let them go. So I always like to do it over a cutting board. All right. Again, keeping my workspace clear. Throwing that out. So the one side will be cut, which is fine. You can leave that, but I'm just going to cut off the other side. And you're going to cut this into rounds. So if you notice your carrot's moving quite a bit and you want to make it a little bit more sturdy, you can cut off just a little bit of one side like that, and then it will lay flat. Okay? And I'm just going to cut this into rounds. So I don't want to do it too thick because the carrot is probably the most dense vegetable that we have. So we want to cut it a little bit thinner so it doesn't take as long to cook. Okay, so just like that. So about maybe 1/4 of a centimeter or so. I really love stir fries because I find like once you've done all the cutting and everything, which doesn't even take that long, especially if you're getting more comfortable with a knife, you kind of throw it all together and it just looks beautiful. It tastes great. You feel good because you're eating a lot of veggies. Okay, and then the last veggie we have is broccoli. So you're each going to get a kind of chunk like this. I've already given mine a wash. What I like to do is just go around and cut off the little heads first, like so. Okay, you can eat this. This is fine for eating. I usually use it in like my soups and stuff, but for a stir fry, I find it takes a little bit too long to cook, so I do toss this. Very loudly, apparently. Okay, you can leave your broccoli in the little florets like this if you like, if you want bigger pieces, but if you want it smaller, I like to cut mine in half. I don't like to cut it too much because then all the little, bits of the broccoli fall off and end up on your cutting board. So I just like to cut mine in half just to give it a bit of a smaller bite. If it's really large, you can cut it into quarters. That. And if it's really small, you can leave it. Okay, put this all in my bowl. And I hate having all this broccoli on my cutting board, so I'm just going to scrape it into the garbage. Get it off my knife. Okay, so that is all of our veggies. Okay, the last couple things we're going to do is we are going to grate some ginger, or chop it up really small. You can grate it or chop it, whatever you like. This is kind of how ginger comes, and it's usually really cheap, but it adds so much flavor to your dishes. I love ginger, so I usually use a ton when I'm making a stir fry. And what I like to do is I'll buy a chunk like this, and I'll peel it all, chop it all up, and I'll put it in a little container in the freezer, so then I don't have to be buying this every single time I want to make a stir fry. It's already ready to go, and I just cut out a chunk of it from the freezer. So for the ginger, you're each going to get just like a little piece like this. Okay, there's a couple ways that you can peel it. You can use just a spoon like this, and it will scrape off. Of course, this one's not going to do it for me. Oh, there we go. Just like that. So you can just kind of push into it, and it comes off. But I do find once you get into like the little nooks and crannies, it's too difficult. I like to use a paring knife. So I'm just going to go around and carefully peel that off. Okay, you don't want any of the peel because it's quite bitter. And you want to get into all of the nooks and crannies to get all of that stuff off. If you have to cut off some of the tips of the little things, that's fine to get in there. And I love the smell. I can smell it through my mask already. Okay, just like that. Okay, I'm going to clear my surface, as I always do. I want to see you guys doing this tomorrow. Okay, so you can do one of two things. You can grate it, but I find what happens is, especially when you're using like a big grater like this, it gets all like stuck in the grater. And I just find it's really hard to get it out, especially because you're not getting like a ton. So I like to just give it a nice fine mince. So I'll just cut it into kind of strips. Okay, so kind of pieces like this. Then I'll cut it in lengthwise again, as small as I can. Kind of do a nice julienne. Okay, then I'll bring those all together and go over that, like so. And then I'll go and do my cross chop over it a couple of times. I don't mind larger pieces of ginger, and you'll be able to tell today kind of how much you like it or don't like the big pieces. So you can cut it as small as you want tomorrow. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to set that aside because I'm not going to put it in here because I do want to add it a little bit after the fact. I don't necessarily love adding it to this because it can burn. Okay, same thing with the garlic. So you'll get 2 garlic cloves tomorrow. And I'm just going to cut off that little end, peel off the skin. Right. And I might actually start preheating my pan now so it can get hot while I just work on this part of it. Okay, again, clearing off my board. Okay, just like that. Now, I can't remember if I have one. Aha, I do. So if you guys don't want to cut your garlic tomorrow, you can use a garlic press. I'll give you a garlic press. Okay, so I'm just going to set this aside until I'm ready to actually put it in. Okay, I'm going to turn up my pan to high. Now we do have woks. If you do want to use a wok tomorrow, you can. I do find they don't work the best on our stoves. Sometimes the heat doesn't kind of get into the wok as much. So I just like to use the largest skillet that we have. Okay, I'm going to add some vegetable oil in here. And as that's heating up, I'm going to get the chicken ready. So I'm going to set everything else aside. Okay, put this away because I don't need it. So tomorrow you'll each get a chicken breast. So what I like to do is I've actually pulled off the little fillets from the chicken breasts, which is just kind of like there's a long kind of thin piece on the back of every chicken breast. So I've pulled those off to use for the demo rather than taking one of your chicken breasts. So you'll probably have a little bit more than this tomorrow. Just give me 1 sec. Turn off that laundry. Okay, so what you're going to do first is you're going to give your chicken a rinse. I always like to rinse it with some cold water first. Okay, and I've just put on gloves just to make cleanup a little bit quicker. So just going to turn the cold water on, and then I have a plate here with some paper towel. You can't see me in the video, but that's okay. I am here. You'll see after the fact. And I think tomorrow what we're going to do is I will use the dishwasher to wash any of the chickeny dishes. So any chickeny dishes that you have or that you use tomorrow, you can bring over to me and I will throw it into the dishwasher. It just makes me feel more comfortable that we're going to sanitize properly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've just dried off the chicken breasts, or the little chicken fillets, and I'm going to lay them out on a plastic cutting board. Do not use your wooden cutting board for meat. Okay, we all know that. And I'm just going to cut it into strips. So I kind of like to do it on a bit of a diagonal. And this is why I like to do the veggies first, because then I've already used this knife for the veggies. Now I can just use it for the chicken. I don't have to clean it in between, etc. Okay, so you just kind of want it into nice little strips like that. Okay, perfect. So that is done. I'm going to set that aside, put my knife over here, take my gloves off, and I'm still going to wash my hands, even though I was wearing gloves, just to make sure they're clean. Okay, so my oil should be heated up by now. Yeah, it's getting there. Okay, so now I can add my veggies. So I'm going to stir fry the veggies for a few minutes until they are tender, and then I'm going to take them out of the pan. Woo! Pan is ready. I'm going to take them out of the pan. Turn it down just a little bit. So we just want them to be tender. We're not going to actually like pulverize our veggies tomorrow. We're not going to overcook them like crazy. I do like to cook it on a bit of a high temperature because it is a stir fry and you can stir it kind of constantly. If you feel brave and you're not going to spill, you can attempt to do one of these. Yeah, question? Yeah. Okay, but no pressure. I don't want you guys to like get your veggies all over the stove tomorrow. So this is going to take a few minutes. After it's cooked, okay, I'm going to take them out and put them on a plate to just set them aside, and then I'm going to cook my chicken. Okay, while these are cooking, I'm going to get my sauce ready. Okay, which is going to be a combination of soy sauce and cornstarch. And I forgot to get the soy sauce out. Okay, so I need 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm just going to put this into a little glass bowl. So 2 tablespoons. I also usually like to get the soy sauce that is less sodium, because soy sauce has a ton of salt in it. Okay, just check on my veggies. coming along nicely. Okay, and then the cornstarch. Now we need about 1 to 2 teaspoons of this. And what the cornstarch does is it creates a nice kind of thick sauce with the soy sauce once you add it to the heat. So I'm going to grab that and add it to my soy sauce. This basically makes what we call kind of like a slurry. Okay, and I'm just going to give this a mix. What will happen is if you do this ahead of time, the cornstarch will kind of float to the bottom, so you'll just have to give it another mix before you add it to your stir fry. All right, that's coming along nicely. Okay, I think what I'm going to do now is probably add my garlic and my ginger. So I kind of wanted my veggies to like get halfway cooked or so before I add these, because these I find tend to burn more easily. So I kind of like to let it start the cooking process and then add these. Okay, so garlic, number 1, and number 2. And tomorrow, what you'll have to do is definitely put on your hood fans, and you'll start to be able to smell all the yumminess. It is a little dry, so I'm just going to add a touch of oil. So the nice thing about cooking is you can kind of play around with things. Okay, those will just need a couple more minutes. I'm going to take them out, put them on a plate here, and then I'm going to cook my chicken in some more oil. All right, while I'm waiting for that, I think I'm going to give my rice a stir. It should probably be good now. Yeah, that is looking perfect. All right, now that's done. Okay, I'm going to take these off. We are going to be cooking the veggies a little bit more after, so we don't want to overcook them to start. We're just kind of starting the cooking process. So I'm going to get everything out of the pan here. Okay, just like that. Add in some more oil. And now I'm going to add my chicken in. Now I'm not going to use the wooden spoon for the chicken, right? Because wood and chicken do not mix. So I'm going to use my tongs. Now if there's still a little water on the chicken, just be careful, it'll splatter with the oil. Okay, put that in there. Tidy up as I go. So you want to basically kind of cook the chicken almost halfway on the one side. Okay, and then you're going to flip it over and cook it the rest on the other side. You don't want any pink left. And by cutting the chicken nice and thin, it'll cook really quickly. So just give that a few minutes. After the chicken is cooked, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to add the veggies back in. Okay, and then we're going to add some chicken stock. This will kind of like finish the cooking process and give us some nice flavor. So I just want to make sure it smells good. Yes, I think that's okay. It just was a little bit bulging, so I'm going to pour it out and see what it looks like. Okay, we need half a cup of this. Can't even smell it. Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, so flip my chicken over. Nice and browned on the one side. Turn this down just a little bit. This pan is quite hot. Okay, I'm going to put these now in the sink, okay, because this was touching the raw chicken, and now that the chicken's almost cooked, I can go back to my wooden spoon. Okay, so yeah, so once the chicken is done, you're going to add the veggies back in, and then you're going to add your ½ cup of chicken stock in, and this kind of just helps finish the cooking process, adds flavor. Okay, once it's kind of reduced a little bit, then you can add your soy sauce mixture. So as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see, but the cornstarch is kind of at the bottom. It's a lot lighter. So again, just give it another little mix. And if you ever want to check to make sure that your chicken is done, you can just grab a knife and a fork and grab like your biggest piece and cut it open to check that it's white all the way through. So this is almost there. Just another couple minutes. Get in there. Okay, can kind of tidy up, clean up as I go. Put my dishwasher on. Okay, that should be good. All right, I'm going to add the veggies back in. Okay, and now I'm going to add my chicken stock. Okay, just let that boil away for a couple minutes. And then with the cornstarch soy sauce mixture, okay, you're going to make a well kind of in the center of this mixture. You're going to pour that into the well, and you're not going to mix it all back together again until the sauce is thickened. Now, if your pan's really hot, it's going to thicken really quickly, so you're going to need to move quickly. You might need to, I'm going to check to see if 2 teaspoons of cornstarch is too much today. We'll test that out to start, and then I'll tell you if you need to add less tomorrow, because these pans tend to get really hot. They're a lot hotter, I find, than the ones that I use at home. Okay, so that's almost gone. So I'm going to make a little kind of hole in the center. Okay, the liquid from the chicken stock will start to come. That's fine. Okay, add that into the middle, and I'm just going to move it around until it starts to thicken. And it will probably do so quite quickly. Okay, already thickening. Now I'm going to mix it all. That's when it gets a little bit more thick and soupy. So this is what creates a really nice sauce on, and it sticks to all of your veggies. One thing that I like to do at home if I'm making this is I have this sauce from VH. It's called medium garlic sauce, and it's so good. It's like a kind of like a teriyaki sauce. So that's a really good option too. Okay, we are done. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put some of this out onto probably a plate, And then what I'd like you guys to do is maybe divide it on your plates so that, or you can divide it into like a separate dish or something like that, so that we're not sharing a dish, right? Okay, so I will do that, but one thing maybe what I'll do just for the purposes of the video is I will plate it up, and then we can divide it up afterwards. So what I like to do, grab my plate, put my rice down first. This plate's probably not going to be big enough, but that's okay. Put my rice down first. Okay, spread it out a little bit. And then take my mixture and add it to the top. Don't let me forget to take a picture. All right, just like that. You can kind of push it a little bit. All right, so that is your chicken stir fry. All right, I'm just going to stop this.